So thank you for inviting me to this meeting. My name is Robert Jakob. I lead the classifications and terminologies team in WHO, and I'm going to tell a little bit about the new ICD-11. ICD-11 is a fully digital product, and as you can see, there is a QR code shown on the screen. If you have a mobile phone, you can point to QR code and you will access the ICD-11. Now, what is the ICD-11? It's the International Classification of Diseases, the ICD-11, and it's a legally mandated health data standard that is in effect from January 2022, following its adoption by the World Health Assembly, means by all member states. ICD has evolved to become a conceptual framework independent of language and culture, and it is now an integration of clinical terminology and classification, because this is the necessary structure that you have in our new digital environment. ICD comes with an end-to-end digital solution, so application, programming interface, a set of tools that all can be used online and offline. And of course, ICD-11 also has up-to-date scientific knowledge. ICD has been ensuring comparable statistics and, as much as needed, semantic interoperability for about 150 years. And in contrast to the past, now ICD-11 will be available under Creative Commons license, as mentioned here, means free use, public and private. You just are not allowed to change the classification. Now, ICD is not alone. ICD comes with partner classifications. So we have one for interventions, International Classification for Health Interventions that serve treatment, prevention, diagnostics in all kinds of medical areas, and of course also in cancer treatment, in rehabilitation related to this, and a classification for functioning, disability and health that allows to assess the functional status of a person. When we designed ICD-11, we have looked closely on how it is used worldwide. And of course, we then looked into these use cases and designed the new structures and content to match these use cases. All and foremost, the most known is the cause of death information, but we have case mix and costing, a lot of administrative uses of diagnostic coded data. We have on the other side, the clinical terms, the records, the communication of clinical information across languages. We have functioning assessment, we have primary care, we have patient safety, and we also have cancer registration as use cases looked at when designing ICD-11. Now, what is the real new thing in ICD-11 is really the structure of it. You see here a comparison between ICD-11 and ICD-10, where in ICD-10 we see a small circle that has some kind of 2 levels of categories, whereas in ICD-11 we really have still this statistical circle, also with 3 levels. And then we have this knowledge network that goes far beyond the pure classification. This is the ontology component, the terminology of ICD, the foundation of the ICD that is also shared with its siblings classifications. And this means that out of 17,000 statistical categories, we still have 80,000 concepts or entities in the system that can be addressed with some computer codes or with statistical code combinations. And these are complemented with some 120,000 terms. Now, the knowledge structure of the ICD allows the design to match also more than just the entities and synonyms that are contained in the system. And so the coding engine, the application programming interface can cope easily with more than 1.6 million terms in formalized code combination or single code outputs. This all means we have a clinical system that can be used for statistics, whereas the outdated ICD-10 was a statistical system imposed on clinicians. Now, ICD-11 is essentially rather easily to understand if you know some basic things. What we have are STEM codes, so these are the classical statistical codes, and you add detail to this STEM code information using extension codes. And with these code combinations, you can express all kind of detail that you want. You can have a single code, a code combination of as many codes as you want or need in your environment. In addition, of course, there are still coding nodes and some diagnostic guidance depending on the part of the ICD. What is new? So at a very high level, I'm just going to tell you that we have new chapters in the ICD-11. So like diseases of the immune system, sleep-wake disorders, conditions related to sexual health, traditional medicine conditions, not treatments, and integrated the disability assessment scheme of WHO that allows to assess the fitness of a person. Overall, in the revision process, we have received some 15,000 proposals that all have been processed for content, for the structure. Some 99 countries participated in one way or another, some 300 institutions across the world, and hundreds of scientists provided their input. But I'm not going to go too much into detail regarding the changes. I'm just focusing on parts that may be of primary interest to you. And what we see here is on the left side of column that ICD is much more than diagnosis. It has injuries, it has signs, symptoms, findings. It has reasons for encounter, the health system and health status, and we have external causes of illness and death. This includes, of course, also patient safety aspects, accidents, suicides, and many other. We have this traditional medicine, functioning assessment. But the interesting part here is also this extension codes, the terminology component, where now we have severity, for example, that in your case is particularly interesting in describing the stage or the grading of a tumor. We have anatomy that matches the content of the former ICD-0 and even much more. We have a histopathology of tumors included. And of course, all kinds of other things like imagine chemicals and medicaments that you can combine to document some problems or some treatments as you need. Now, this was a lot of theory. Let's look at the browser that you can find online. I took here a screenshot of the section that is of particular interest to you, the malignant neoplasms of the biliary system. And what you see here is, for example, that there's a whole range of detail now included a priori in the core of the ICD-11, and you can add more detail, for example, being specific about the histopathology, just clicking on this mini tree that the arrow is pointing to. And with this, you can be as specific as you want. And you also see there you can switch language. We'll come to this later. Most importantly, look at the arrow at the bottom, at the top is the coding tool. And if we go to this coding tool, this really helps you to work as easy as possible. So you don't need to become a ICD professional to use it. You just code like in a Google style. And here somebody has sloppily typed cancer of the bile duct, and the system tells you, well, if you don't tell me more, it will be just something cancer of the bile duct and no information. But of course, if you are more specific, then you can go to the distal and other parts. Nevertheless, the system shows you also other matches so that if it turns out to say, oh, this is too unprecise, let's choose something more specific and get into this. Now, looking at this multilinguality, I chose here an example of the same browser, of the same settings. However, somebody decided to look this up in Spanish and to also see the Chinese version. This is already possible. Also, Arabic is there, and French and Russian will become available this year, and some 20 more translations are being prepared. So we should have this content codable available in all languages that are of main importance. Now, some of you may say, oh, I don't like certain parts. I want to recommend, for example, to add some more coding hints in the classification or to add some additional detail. Get involved, go to the ICD platform, go to the maintenance platform, and there you can register yourself. Then you can enter proposals and you can then propose whatever you need. Please make sure you put some scientific evidence linked to this so that decisions can be taken appropriately. Now, this all said, here we have the front page of the ICD-11. You will find this under icd.who.int. And here you find a whole range of information, the licensing agreement, some instruction manuals, some small training, the browsers, this kind of maintenance platform for participation. So all the parts that you may need. And if you have any questions or problems, get in touch with us at ICD@WHO. Thank you very much for your attention and looking forward to your questions and comments.